Are you trying to figure out the best way to connect Splash and Pardot? This video is for you. Alright, so whenever you're running an event, some of the most obvious critical information about that event that you can send over to your marketing automation platform is going to be who's registered for the event and when did they show up, so whether that be virtually or in person. If your marketing automation tool is Pardot, then the best way to get that information, especially if you're using Splash, is using a Pardot Form Handler. In this walkthrough, I'm going to show you every single step for how to set up a Pardot Form Handler and connect it to a Splash RSVP, and to set up a different form handler for a Splash check-in so you get that level of granularity so you can see everything that happened on the guest list. Okay, so we're live, and we're just going to go ahead and log into an instance of Pardot. And I've already logged into my instance of Splash. So you can see here, I've got like a Sync Foundry event page that's been already set up, and I've got 46 guests on it. So what I'm going to want to do, start off in Pardot. You're going to go to Marketing and Forms and go to your Form Handlers. Now you're going to create a new form handler and call it whatever you want. So in this case, SF demo, check-in, no, RSVPs. I'm going to choose a folder here. I'll just go ahead and choose Tim. And I've got a campaign here called Tim. And it's really important to note that you can add things like completion actions. So if you want to go ahead and add lead scoring and in lists, like adding somebody to a list, that's probably the most common thing that you would be doing in terms of completion actions, and probably the most important reason to use form handlers over any other way of integrating with Pardot. And then finally get to form fields. You'll note here that you have an email form as a field as a requirement. That one, of course, every email is going to be required. Like I would go ahead and say, it makes sense to at least add first name and last name, because those are always standard fields on any Splash form anyway. And then you can collect anything else that you'd want to. So UTM parameters or answers to other types of questions. They just need to exist as fields in your prospect list. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2. It's important to get to note down what the external name is. It's got to be case sensitive. This is super key. Great. We're going to require all of them. And we're just going to keep it as simple as that. So I'm going to go ahead and create the form handler. And I'll get the HTTPS version. You should pretty much always use the HTTPS version. I'm kind of surprised they still even default to HTTP at this point. And then I'll go into my event and I'll head over to settings. And if you go into settings, you can go to the last tab, you get to integration, and then there you're going to go ahead and click on new integration. So you'll see a few different options here, and you're going to select Pardot Form Handler. All right, so right off the bat, we're going to go ahead and paste in that URL that we just copied over from Pardot. We're going to give this a meaningful name. It's important to always do that with any integration. So we'll go ahead and say Pardot Form Handler, SF Demo, RSVP, yes. You'll see why we call it that in a moment. For the trigger, we're going to go ahead and select Attendee. And for the action, we're going to choose RSVPs. Make sure you only choose RSVPs. This is actually a multi-select, so choose that carefully. And then we're going to go ahead and add field mappings. And with that, we're going to go ahead and say contact, email equals email. Now remember I said that this is case sensitive. If we take a look at the external field names here, this has to match what's in here exactly. If it doesn't match, even if the case is off, then it will fail. All right, so we have this all configured up. And we'll go ahead and turn it on. Now this should be all set. So, if we go back, now that this has been turned on, if we go back to our guest list, anybody who has the status of RSVP yes from this point forward will be sent with their first name, last name, and email over to Pardot. So let's take a look at what that looks like. I'm going to take my first person on the guest list here, and I'll change her status to attending. Great. If I'm over in the form handler and I press refresh, there she is. Let's go back and get a few more people over there. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll change all their status to attending. All right. And did it work? There you go. There are 7 people in here. Let's show all of them. There we go. All right. So whenever somebody RSVPs to the event, we can send them into Pardot, no problem. And obviously, because it's being done with a form handler, we can tie completion actions and add them to lists and do whatever we want. But now, separately, what if we want to track when somebody actually shows up to the event? With that, we're just going to create another form handler. The easiest way to do that would probably be to copy it. I'll give it a different name. Same folder, same campaign, same field name, same everything. All right, so we have a new URL. And very similarly to what we did last time, we're going to go to Settings, Integrations, and then this time it's just as easy in Splash to just make a duplicate. We'll go ahead and scroll down. We have a new form handler, and everything's been copied. We're just going to paste in the new URL. It's slightly different there. Give it a different meaningful name. And we'll go over to the action, we'll uncheck RSVP yes, and we will check checked in. Everything else should line up perfectly, and we'll save it. And make sure you scroll back up and you turn it on. All right, so now we'll go back to that same guest list. We'll take a few people that have RSVP'd yes, and we'll check them in. This, of course, will also work if you're using the host app for Splash, so if you're going to just swipe people in at the door, that's perfectly fine. If we refresh, there you go. And you can note that there are some scores that are increasing each time they are having some sort of completion action done. So that's it. Generally, the best way to integrate with Pardot from any external system is usually to use a form handler. In this case, Splash actually has a dedicated form handler integration that can be added to a single event multiple times. Now, you can also add that at the org level, but it tends to make more sense doing it at the event level so you have individual RSVPs and individual check-ins for every event tracked separately in Pardot. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a like, and if you want more content like it, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you have questions, put them in the comments below, and if you need any help integrating with Pardot, or with Splash, or really any marketing tool out there, well, that's what we do, and you can find us at syncfoundry.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.